Robin Miller.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. First of all, can I give my thanks to the Honourable Member for Gower for bringing this debate forward on behalf of those who've answered this petition. It is really important that we represent those who write to us, and I, like many other colleagues here, will have had many, emails and letters on this subject. But I would just add a note there, and there's 2 points I want to make. So on this first point, I would just add this note of caution, and that is that as parliamentarians, it's our job not only to represent those with a voice, those who are motivated, those who are interested, those who are engaged, those who do grab our attention. It's also to represent those without a voice, those who are vulnerable, those who can't speak, those who speak with a very quiet voice. It is our duty to represent their interests and consider their situation as well. And I think that's a really important balance that we must bring to this. So I make no apology for bringing that into this debate. And I want to commend the Honourable Member for Gower for bringing that balance into the tone with which she set this debate. If we're to have these debates, it's really important it's done in the right way, and the tone she set was very helpful, and I thank her for that. I also want to thank the Health and Social Care Select Committee for their report, because I have found that very helpful with the facts that they've presented. And again, the approach they've taken to that, I commend it to all people to read, because there are many good and useful points in this. The second point that I want to make, though, and there's very little time available for any, so I'll leave it at this, is some might characterise it as a slippery slope, some might characterise it as the thin end of a wedge, and I too was appalled, I confess, reading what Matthew Parris wrote about it, and the way in which he wrote it and presented it, I found it to be crude and unnecessarily so in the debate. But I want to speak about the issue of normalising. And it has been made, and the point's been made in other places, that suicide rates in countries where this legislation is introduced actually go up. And it's that normalising that I have a particular concern of this afternoon as we've debated. Because in Scotland, for example, the assisted dying for terminally ill adults bill includes a definition of terminal illness, which could be seen to include things like type 1 diabetes or rheumatoid arthritis. And my concern is, and I quote the Health and Social Care's Select Report, again, where it says, page 45, wherever the boundaries are set, evidence from other jurisdictions shows that the boundaries are eroded and criteria expanded. And my concern is, yes, I was
following his arguments very carefully from earlier on. That citation he makes from the report is in itself a quote from a campaign group rather than a finding of the committee.
I thank the Honourable Member for making that. It stands as it is, and I refer every interested reader to the context of that. The point to the Honourable Member, and then.
I think it's necessary for accuracy within this debate. If he refers to page 96, paragraph 7 of the report, the Select Committee said, quote, "We also conclude that jurisdictions which have introduced ADAS on the basis of terminal illness have not changed the law to include eligibility on the basis of unbearable suffering." Unquote.
I don't remember he's put that comment on the record. I give way to Strangford.
To add to his concerns over some of the suggestions that are coming out of Scotland, and he referred to one of the things that has been quoted, even young girls who may have anorexia could find themselves in a position where they might feel that they are constrained to do that. And I make this point, Madam Chair, it's very important. I know that the Health Service saved the life of one of my constituents by whenever she was in difficult times, by going to St Thomas's Hospital just across the way. They saved her life, and it could have very well been the other way round.
I thank the Honourable Member for his intervention, and I think this speaks to my concern about a normalisation. Because if we introduce the legislation which says it is acceptable to end life for a wider range of conditions, and as I say, the evidence before us in Scotland is that interpretation is correct, then we risk normalising suicide as a prescription. And that, I'll happily give way.
I think he's making a really perfect point in terms of Clause 2 of the proposed bill going through the Scottish Parliament at the moment. And there is no mention of 12 months. There's no mention of a person dying at a particular time. It's simply about aspects of the condition from which they're unable to recover and could be reasonably expected to cause premature death. And it's that sort of worry that we have, interpretation of the law, that has undoubtedly expanded around the world, such that we've seen the increase in number of people with assisted suicide.
I thank the Right Honourable Member for her intervention. And I would just conclude with this point, Madam Chairman. We must never get to a point where assisted dying is seen as a prescription. We must never get to a point, I hope, where we see death as a treatment. Thank you.